the Sandwich Man. Who can make the sun shine? The Sandwich Man can. Do you remember the deep state employee who was so incensed that Donald J. Trump was bringing justice to the streets and peace and tranquility, unlike anything we've seen in D.C.? Do you remember the woke D.C. employee deep state employee who assaulted a federal officer, a Border Patrol agent, with a sandwich, a foot-long sandwich? Well, his case has been adjudicated, and the super leftist jury in D.C. acquitted him of assault on a federal officer with a sandwich. And I'm going to read through this in a minute, but we have to hear this guy, the defendant, and what he says when he was acquitted today in D.C. by a jury of his peers. Let's hear the Sandwich Man.
I am so happy that justice prevails.
He does not sound happy. He sounds like he is a marionette.
In spite of everything happening. And that night, I believe that I was protecting the rights of immigrants.
Yes, like the illegal who you probably saw screaming in the streets getting dragged off, who was on all the mainstream news outlets for 24 hours, including Television, Univision, and Telemundo, until they found out he is a child rapist. And then they just dropped it and pretended like he never existed. You were assaulting a federal officer over a child rapist with a sandwich. You assaulted him. Hopefully, thankfully, he didn't rape your daughter, if you have one.
And let us not forget that the Great Seal of the United States says e pluribus unum.
Out of many ingredients comes one sandwich. E pluribus unum.
That means from many, one.
Yes, from many pickles, lettuce, tomatoes, and one. No, from many rapist illegals into one.
Every life matters, no matter where you came from.
Even if you rape a child, we still want you, and I will assault a federal officer for you. The big question, I'm going to read the little story on this, but the big question is, would you have done it again? If you could do it again, would you do it all over again? Because this guy lost his cushy federal job with the Department of Justice, I believe it was. He lost his job, and he had to hire an attorney, and that attorney did not cost $500 in the D.C. district going in front of a federal jury, a grand jury, and then they downgraded it from a felony to a misdemeanor. This guy probably paid $2 to $5 grand for a lawyer, and he lost his job. The big question, if you asked him when the cameras weren't rolling at a bar or something, would you do it all over again if you had the chance? The truthful answer would be no, because he lost his cushy job. I like how he said, my city. He was mad that you were in my city. I don't know, you can still be living there in 5-10 years if you don't have a job and they fired you for assaulting a federal officer. He was a Department of Justice employee. This from the New York Post. He was acquitted of assaulting a federal employee with a sandwich. Oh, what are you in here for? Assault a federal officer. Whoa. Would you assault him with your fist? No. What? A sandwich. But this is so great. You got to hear this. I could just do the show on this tonight. That's it. He chucked a Subway sandwich at an agent who he testified the hoagie. The agent said the hoagie. I couldn't testify if I was his agent. I would be laughing too hard. He testified the hoagie exploded all over him. Holy hoagie! Oh, the humanity! Ah! Ah! Like the Hindenburg. Ah! It exploded all over him, leaving him smelling of onions and mustard. Onion, mustard, cayenne pepper. Sean Charles Dunn, 37, found not guilty of misdemeanor assault charged by a jury in D.C. today. I'm relieved. I'm looking forward to moving on with my life so I can assault more officers with sandwiches. Just kidding. His lawyers argued at trial the sandwich tossing incident was blown out of proportion, like the sandwich was blown apart by the feds, and it was a harmless gesture. He freaking whipped a hoagie at an officer in uniform. Did he buy the hoagie to assault the officer? Is it premeditated? It was a harmless gesture at the end of him exercising his right to speak out. He freaking threw the sandwich at the guy and got crap all over him. Listen to this. The agent testified that if I could not do this if I was the agent without laughing. He testified he could feel the hoagie's impact through his ballistic vest. Slow-mo. It kind of exploded all over. He said you could smell the onions and the mustard, said the agent. He also found onions strewn on his police radio. His shirt was stained yellow from mustard. The incident became a joke with Larimore and his coworkers, the guy who got, with the agent and his coworkers who gifted. The agent was gifted a felony foot-long patch and a plush sandwich which the agent displayed on top of my shelf in the office. He told the juror he took one for the team. Agent down! We have an agent down! We never trained for this. This is one we never trained for. This is what every federal officer's wife worries about at night when he's out on duty. Getting hit with a hoagie. The charges were great, though, by the way. I wish he was convicted. This is too funny to not do. This is so rich. The defendant, international affairs specialist at the DOJ's criminal division, fired following the incident. His lawyers wanted to have it tossed out like a tossed salad that was on the hoagie, y'all. It was a tossed hoagie. The night of the incident, he walked up to a group of Border Patrol agents standing outside a club during a Latino night. He called out the agents fascist, racist, and chanted shame at them before he launched the sandwich that landed on Larimore's chest. Why are you here? I don't want you in my city. Eat the frickin' hoagie. No, I made that up. He then tried to flee, but was ultimately arrested. Remember how much of a pansy he was when he was in a pink shirt and tight white shorts, and he ran like a pansy? He lost his job. He lost thousands for the lawyer, and he still lost his job. I bet you he wouldn't have done it if he could do it over again. He wouldn't do that. University of Iowa student charged after allegedly flipping over political tables group. This is Turning Point USA. I'll read the tweet. This is on my Twitter feed, at Chris Krok Show. That's at Chris Krok Show. I'll read that in a second. But Justin Calhoun, a man who says he's a woman, a 19-year-old trans Democrat who attacked TPUSA staff at the University of Iowa, flipped over their table and has been arrested by Johnson County Sheriff Deputy. Here we go from CBS 2 Iowa. In Iowa City, members report the group were offering hot chocolate when Calhoun, this transgender guy, declined and turned over the table and laughed and walked away. Officers said the incident disrupted the group's event and left the members, all of whom were female, visibly shaken. You got a man saying he's a woman, threatening women and overthrowing the table and terrifying them. He's charged with disorderly conduct. People for Turning Point USA are shot and killed like Charlie Kirk. At least this SOB, pretending to be a woman, threatens and humiliates and shames and terrifies women. What a sick bastard. Excuse my language. He's charged with disorderly conduct, third-degree harassment, criminal mischief. He pleaded not guilty and was released without bond. My favorite thing is even the mainstream media in Iowa says he when he wants you to think he's a she. But you know what? Put your hand on your pants, bro hand. There's something swinging down there, and it ain't a JJ, okay? U.S. judge. This is angering and pathetic at the same time. U.S. judge. There's two Biden appointees or Obama appointees who are like trying to force Trump, the Trump department, administration to do food stamps when there's no money for it because the Democrats shut the government down 39 days ago. This is the longest one in history. This Democrat judge called the Trump officials back in today and yelled at them. People have gone without food for too long, he scolded the Trump administration. It's likely that SNAP recipients are hungry as we sit here, said this federal judge in Rhode Island. The evidence shows the people will go hungry. Food pantries will be overburdened. Needless suffering will occur. Hey, freaking liberal Democrat judge appointed by former President Hussein Obama, why don't you order the Democrats to go back and open up the government instead of attacking the Trump administration who wants to keep the government open and voted 15 times to open it up? Why don't you order the Democrats to come back and fund the freaking government? How about that? How about, wait, I have a little something for you on that.
How about that?
The Senate will vote to end government shutdown as travel chaos and food benefit cuts wreak havoc. It's 39 days, not 36 days, not 39 days, but who's counting? The three spending bills that they're going to propose, that they're going to take a vote on Friday in the Senate would last to the next year, and will tack them onto the continuing resolution to fund the government through January. It's already passed the House. Now listen to this closely. No negotiations, and no, the filibuster is a disgrace. Trump is really off his freaking rocker. The filibuster, ending that? Hell no. It's not going to happen. It never should happen. And you say the Democrats will do that. Well, let them do something that should never be done, and then we'll take care of it. Democrats don't mind your flight delays from the Wall Street Journal today, the editorial board. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut says, if on the heels of the American people having rewarded Democrats for standing up and fighting by winning the 3 elections yesterday, we surrendered without getting anything, that for a compromise now could damage the Democrat brand. In other words, we fought hard, we win these 3 elections, including Jay Jones wanting to kill and murder his opponents and their children in Virginia. So we can't surrender without getting something, and this is a mandate for us to keep doing it. Your suffering, the Journal says, is an assist to the Democrat brand. That's what he said. A compromise now could change the Democrat brand. Quote, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, you want to have a beer? Let's have a beer. Yeah. We got about 125,000 people, mamas and babies in Massachusetts, she says, that get food assistance. Come on, this is baby formula, she said 2 years ago. Today she's saying nothing. I remember this when I was telling somebody the other day that the night that we found out that Pocahontas, she did the blood test and she thought it showed that she was Native American, but it showed that she was like 1/1,000,000th Native American. And that also I read that the average European American has more Native American blood in them percentage-wise than her percentage was. So I'm a Polish American, and what that means is I am more Native American than her. On the night her results were released, I was playing pan flute, Indian pan flute music, and I was talking about smoking the peace pipe and getting in touch with my peoples, and that I had a blanket, and I had my blanket, and I was taking some peyote to get in touch with my peoples. There you go. This is a time and place, or there is a time and place, to debate health care. Just like there's a time and place to debate energy policy and immigration and education. Senator Chris Murphy said 12 years ago, but not when funding the government, the federal government, and all the lives are impacted by it hanging in the balance. So Senator Chris Murphy says we're going to ruin the brand if we don't keep holding out. We won those elections. We got to keep the government shut down. But he said the opposite, like all of them did 12 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago. I've always told you this, and you know this. Look, I got nothing against Teslas. If you got one, you want one, that's great. I will never buy an electric vehicle because I can't afford to buy a third car. We have one for me, one for my wife. My kids have their own cars. I'm not going to buy a third EV because of a third car, because if I bought an EV, it would be only for local. And I don't buy cars that I can only go local for. I mean, I guess one day maybe, but I'm not going to buy one because when it's hot, like we are in Texas where I'm at, and most of our folks that watch this show are at, or if it's cold, your EV battery goes down as much as 40% in what it can hold. Number 2, you can't take it on road trips because half the time wherever you go, there's not enough EV charging stations. They're broke or you're going to wait 5 hours. I will never buy an EV. Well, look at this stuff. So I've told you the EVs are the road to nowhere. Look at this, and this is no surprise, but it makes me happy, and I'm gleeful when I tell you this. Ford considers scrapping entirely the Ford F-150 Lightning EV pickup that Joe Biden raved about. So, it's so awesome, look at hey! Ford is considering discontinuing the electric F-150 Lightning due to low demand. I told you. We had listeners, and I read a review. I've done so much on this over the years. They're heavy. It's like 2,000 pounds for the battery alone, I think. But also when they tow, they can't even go more than like 50 miles on a tow before it runs out of power. There was an EV that was rented and used as a test drive for this Ford F-150, and a journalist for automotive journalist did it. He says literally all he did was drive to get the trailer. Nothing was on the trailer. He drove the trailer back to his house, and it almost ran out of power. It can't do anything. It is useless. It's a disgrace. It's a joke, and they all are, as far as I'm concerned. Ford is going to considering scrapping the F-150 Lightning exclusively from the Wall Street Journal because of low demand and $13 billion in losses since 2023 in 2 years. Sales dropped 24% year over year. 24%. A quarter of all the sales dropped off in 1 year. Only 1,500 Lightnings sold the past year compared to 66,000 F-150 gas-powered. 1,500 or 66,000? Which do you think is the one you'd want your company making? High prices. Starting around $50,000. If you get the full model, it's like $90,000. It's a joke. Nobody wants to pay for this disgrace. I told you about a guy who was up in Canada. He's got lots of money. He bought one. He took it on a trip to go to Chicago, and he didn't even make it halfway to Minneapolis, and he had to stop at a dealership, leave it there, and rent a real one, a gas one, because he barely made it. He had to drive around looking for places. He could not make it to Chicago. He didn't even make it halfway from Canada, and he's in one of the areas in Canada where it's not too far from the United States, so it's not like he's way up there. They once described this F-150 Lightning as the modern Model T. Ford did. Yeah, we all knew this was a joke. Overall EV sales expected to plummet in absence of the government support, it should never need government support. If it's a Model T, they didn't get no government support, and yes, that's a double negative. Sales of Tesla's Cybertruck tanked this year. Rivian has been cutting jobs to conserve cash. You know about the infamous story about a man who had a Rivian, had a fender bender, just a little fender bender. It was like $75,000 for a little fender bender that you and I would probably spend $5,000 for, max. In October, the first month since the end of the federal EV tax credit, that was a joke, and that was horrible to have. Ford's overall EV sales fell 24%. Ford dealers sold 66,000 gas-powered F-150s and only 1,500 Lightnings, the fewest of any model they sell. The truck's range on a single charge is dramatically reduced when towing big loads or operating in cold weather. Why would you buy something that doesn't work half the time or what you bought it for in the first place, ever? What a disgrace, and what a statement on how EVs are, as I've always said, a road to nowhere. And I usually will play Ozzy Osbourne's "The Road to Nowhere leads to me." The road to nowhere leads to me. May God rest his soul. Okay, we got a problem. We've been hearing about it. One of my brothers have been telling me about it, who follows a lot of stuff with politics and is a big Trump supporter, but we'll happily call him out. And my son, who is 22, has been talking about this to me for 2-3 years now. It's getting worse and worse and worse to afford to live. And my son wants to buy a home. Not right away. He's not stupid. He's like I am. He knows how we have to work our way up and stuff. But I told him something that has affirmed everything he's been telling me and showing me memes or sending me a link to an Instagram post on a guy talking about something with facts. And I would tell him half this is right, the other half is BS. And here's why: because of my job. I read tons of news. It's my job to know what's going on. But I couldn't deny, month after month or year after year, he'd send me stuff, and he's right. It's becoming impossible for him and college graduates. He's soon to be one to be able to live. And the worst thing just happened the other day when I saw that now the average age of homeowners in their first home is 40 years of age. That is a bleeping disgrace. It's disgusting. Now comes Breitbart News economics editor John Carney on Glenn Greenwald's podcast. Here's what he said. Politicians basically shut people out when they're talking about, in the past with the Democrats with inflation. Look, Donald Trump got elected in part because people were tired of being shut out. And so one of my insights here, Carney says, is the very same thing that's now happening to these young professionals in our cities. Mamdani got elected, listen to this, because he stopped. He wasn't joining the club of telling people, yeah, there's nothing that can be done about your life, just lower your expectations regarding economics and home ownership and everything, getting jobs. So he gave them a message of hope. It's frankly the very Trump-like message in that way. Now, he's not saying Mamdani's message is right. No, he's wrong. He's a communist. But he's saying talking about the needs of young people and being broke. And there's a real problem. And the more Trump doesn't hit this on head first, he's not, the more screwed we are. And, to say, well, gas prices are low and the tariffs are bringing in revenue, it is impossible to buy a frickin' house for most people. The numbers on everything with debt, with delinquency, with credit card debt, with subprime mortgage and subprime borrowers for cars are at the highest levels of all time. Credit card debt's at the highest levels of all times. And we have a real problem. And we're going to lose our asses, excuse my language, in the primaries, in the midterms next year if we don't get this done. So I can't defend what's going on anymore as far as the economy to my son. I can't. And he voted for Trump twice. 3 times, actually. Hundreds of Hamas fighters. Well, he's 22. He voted this time, and then he voted when he was 18 for Trump. Hundreds of Hamas fighters are stuck in. I love this story. Hundreds of Hamas fighters, between 200 and 300, stuck in tunnels in the Israeli-controlled part of Gaza. They're starving. They're running out of food. And Israel obviously is occupying about half to a little bit more than half of Gaza. And it's the outer part of it all around, at least half, maybe even 60% of Gaza. And underneath those tunnels, they're blowing up. And they're destroying them, and there's terrorists under there that got stuck and didn't make it back to the terrorist side of Hamas. It's freaking rich and awesome. Hundreds of armed Hamas fighters trapped in tunnels under the Israeli-controlled side of Gaza and willing to take shots at Israel. They remain behind the line, trapped underground with no means of escape and dwindling supplies. You mean you're being starved like the Jews you starved for 2 years, you sons of bees? You Zor Mandami supporters? Some may have already died from starvation. Hamas, I don't feel sorry for them. They're terrorists, and they're there because they're terrorists. Hamas has said it lost the ability to communicate with the men in March, but Israeli officials don't think so. They think Hamas has been able to communicate with the trap fighters all along. Tunnels are equipped with communication systems. Yeah, they got phones, etc. They might not be with comms, but it doesn't freaking matter. I hope they starve and die. I mean, if they... And Israel says you can come out and surrender. And... there's reports that Trump won't confirm that he's saying, let them surrender. And Israel says, we won't let them surrender unless they lay down their weapons. But Israel wants to, with all the across-the-board politicians, all of them want to take them into custody or kill them, and that's what I want them to do. So if they don't want to starve, they can come out and surrender. That's what they can do. Last but not least, this just came out today from Breitbart, and this is the sign of how Joe Biden literally destroyed thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands of lives through what he did with the border. This came in. Chuck Grassley, senator out of Iowa, of course, the senior senator, just dropped some information. And the first 2 years of Biden's administration, he lost contact. Javier Becerra, HHS, lost contact with half of the unaccompanied minors. Half. They lost contact with 113,000 unaccompanied children after 30 days of being released. Their whereabouts could not be determined. 112,000 illegals, children. Most of them are probably being raped, sex trafficked, or worked hard like a dog, like a slave, in ungodly conditions, like on Gavin Newsom's weed farm that he defended, like those minor children, at least 14 of them. HHS lost contact, could not determine the safety or whereabouts of roughly half of all UAC's unaccompanied children transferred to sponsors across the country. HHS placed more than 11,000 of these children in homes with adult sponsors who were not their parents, who were not relatives, or even vetted through fingerprints or background checks. They could be child molesters who have raped and killed 50 kids like John Wayne Gacy did. And you know what? We wouldn't know it. And Joe Biden says, get them the hell out of here so I don't have to count them as being under our watch. It's sickening. It's disgusting. It's evil. Sponsors were not required to show valid ID. They were never fingerprinted, so we don't know if there's a criminal record. There was no DNA testing, so the claims they were taking family members were dubious. Remember the other thing, too, that was revealed in Congress and congressional testimony this past year, that a couple 100,000 children, unaccompanied children, that were put in the custody of God knows who like this, they were given a hotline number to call if something was bad. And there were, I think it was 150,000 or 110,000 calls that went to that hotline, and none were answered and none were returned. That's Joe Biden's legacy, among much, much more. The murders, the rapes of people in this country from his people, from the people he invaded this country.